The realization hit me as I stared at the email from the patent office. My application had been rejected, not because it lacked merit, but because someone had already filed for the exact same technology. Someone with my research, my designs, my life's work. Congratulations on the patent filing. My father-in-law's voice startled me from the doorway of my home office. Victor Bennett stood there in his impeccable suit, trademark smile firmly in place. James tells me Horizon Technologies is already preparing production lines. My hands trembled as I turned my laptop toward him. You stole my research. My name is Elena Reyes, and at 36, I was discovering just how far my husband's family would go to maintain control of their technology empire, even if it meant destroying my career in the process. Stolen is such an ugly word, Victor replied, straightening his already perfect tie. We simply expedited the inevitable. That research was going to end up at Horizon eventually. You're a Bennett now, after all. I never gave anyone permission to take my work, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady even as my mind raced. 3 years of research on quantum computing applications, research I conducted independently before I'd even met James. Victor waved his hand dismissively. Permission becomes a gray area in a marriage, Elena. James had access to your laptop, your cloud accounts. He was only doing what's best for the family legacy. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. James knew about this. Of course he did, Victor chuckled. Do you think my son would act against family interests? He brought your initial designs to me months ago. Quite impressive work, I must say, even if you were focusing on all the wrong applications. James and I had met at a technology conference 4 years ago. He'd been charming, attentive, genuinely interested in my work, or so I thought. Now I wondered if he'd been interested in more than just me from the beginning. What Victor and James didn't know was that the research they'd stolen was only part of the picture. The quantum coherence algorithm they patented was merely the foundation of my larger innovation. The truly revolutionary breakthrough, the one that would transform data security forever, remained secured in an encrypted drive only I could access. I see, I said, closing my laptop with measured calm. What exactly do you expect me to do now? Victor's smile widened. That's what I've always respected about you, Elena. Practical, no emotional outbursts. He stepped farther into the room. Horizon Technologies will compensate you, of course. We're prepared to offer you a position heading the development team for our technology, with appropriate credit as part of the research team. Part of the team, I repeated flatly. The Bennett name will be primary naturally. Optics matter in this industry, but you'll be well compensated, and James assures me that's what matters most to you. I thought about the years I'd spent building my research, the nights I'd worked while James claimed to be at business meetings, likely reporting my progress to his father. All while I believed I finally found someone who valued me for my mind rather than my family connections or appearance. I'll need time to consider your offer, I replied, revealing nothing of my inner turmoil. Victor nodded, satisfied. Of course. We're making the official announcement at next week's shareholders meeting. Your presence would be appreciated, regardless of your decision about the position. After you left, I immediately pulled out my secure phone, one that had never been connected to any Bennett network, and called Maya, my former research partner and the only person besides myself who understood the complete picture of my work. They stole the coherence algorithm, I said without preamble. James was accessing my files all along. Maya's sharp intake of breath was audible. All of it. Just phase 1. The foundation architecture. They don't have the security applications or the quantum mesh networking protocols. Thank God for your paranoia, Maya muttered. What's your move? I need to get to the backup servers at the lake house. Tonight. I'll meet you there. And Elena. I hate to ask, but... Yes, James was involved. Apparently, he's been reporting to his father from the beginning. The silence that followed contained all the sympathy I needed. Maya had never trusted James, had warned me about the convenient timing of his interest in me and my work. I defended him, convinced his affection was genuine. I'm sorry, she finally said. Don't be, this isn't over. I spent the next hour methodically gathering essential items while appearing to go about my normal routine. James would be home soon, expecting to find his dutiful wife preparing dinner, blissfully unaware of her intellectual property being stolen from under her nose. When he arrived, I greeted him with a calculated smile. Your father stopped by today. James froze momentarily before recovering. Did he? What did he want? To congratulate me, apparently, on a patent filing I didn't submit. To his credit, James didn't pretend ignorance. Instead, he set down his briefcase and sighed. I was going to tell you after the announcement. We needed to secure the intellectual property before someone else did. Someone else? I repeated. You mean like me? The actual inventor? Elena, be reasonable. Horizon Technologies has the infrastructure to develop and market this technology properly. You were still years away from practical application. I crossed my arms. And that justified stealing my work. Work I did before I even met you. I didn't steal anything, he protested. We're married. What's yours is mine, and what's mine is yours, including the Bennett resources that will turn your theoretical research into market-ready products. Right, with my name buried in the fine print if mentioned at all. James ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. You'll be credited appropriately. Dad's prepared to offer you a development position that. Yes, he mentioned that. Very generous. Something in my tone must have finally penetrated his self-assurance. He studied me more carefully. You're taking this remarkably well. I shrugged. What choice do I have? The patent's already filed. The Bennett family always gets what it wants. Isn't that what you told me on our third date? Relief spread across his features. Exactly. And in this case, what we want is to bring your brilliant work to market, with you involved every step of the way. This is a good thing, Helena. Perhaps you're right, I conceded, hating how quickly he believed my acquiescence. I need some time to process everything. I thought I'd go to the lake house for the weekend. Clear my head. The lake house, now? His forehead creased with concern. The shareholders' meeting is in 6 days, and I'll be back in plenty of time, I assured him. I just need space to adjust to this new arrangement. James visibly relaxed. Of course. Take the weekend. I'd join you, but Dad needs me to prepare for the announcement. I understand, family comes first. That night, as James slept soundly beside me, I quietly packed a small bag with essentials. By 5 a.m., I was on the road to the lake house my grandmother had left me, property the Bennetts knew about but had never visited, dismissing it as a quaint, worthless vacation cottage compared to their multiple luxury homes. What they didn't know was that beneath the modest cabin sat a state-of-the-art secure server facility, powered by solar panels disguised as part of the dock structure. My grandmother hadn't just been a brilliant physicist, she'd been a cautious one who taught me the value of safeguarding intellectual property. Maya was waiting when I arrived, her car hidden in the stand of trees behind the property. You look remarkably composed for someone whose husband just stole her life's work, she observed as we entered the cabin. I'll save the breakdown for after we secure the full research, I replied, moving the antique bookcase that concealed the entrance to the basement facility. The next hours were spent transferring the complete research to secure, independent channels and activating our contingency protocol, the one we created years ago when we first realized the true value of our discoveries. By evening, everything was in place. Are you sure about this? Maya asked as we finalized the preparations. Once we move forward, there's no going back. The Bennetts won't forgive you. I thought about James's betrayal, his willingness to steal my work while sleeping beside me every night, and Victor's smug certainty that I would fall in line. I'm sure. My phone buzzed with a message from James. Everything okay? You haven't called. I replied with reassuring banality, just enjoying the quiet. Thinking things through. Home tomorrow. Maya watched me set down the phone. He has no idea what's coming, does he? Neither of them do. The next morning, I drove back to the city in the home I shared with James, my plan set in motion. When I arrived, he greeted me with cautious optimism. Feeling better about everything? He asked, searching my face for signs of lingering resentment. Much better, I replied, setting down my bag. I've had time to consider the situation from all angles. Relief washed over his features. Dad will be thrilled. He's already talking about expanding the development team to fast-track production. I'm sure he is. I moved toward my home office. I should check in with Maya. She's been texting about some research we did together before I met you. James' expression shifted subtly. Maya Chowdhury, I thought you two had a falling out. We reconciled recently. I paused at the office door. By the way, when exactly did you copy my research files? I'm curious about which version you submitted for the patent. His hesitation was brief but telling. Elena, that's not important now. What matters is moving forward as a team. You're right, I agreed, closing the door between us before he could see the cold determination in my eyes. Inside my office, I connected to the secure network Maya, and I had established and reviewed our progress. Within hours, our countermove would be complete. James knocked once before entering, his expression concerned. Dad wants us to come to dinner tonight, to discuss your role in the project going forward. Perfect, I replied. I have a few things I'd like to discuss with him as well. Victor Bennett's mansion was exactly what you'd expect from a tech mogul. Ultra-modern, ostentatious, designed to intimidate. As we were ushered into his private study, I noted the framed patent certificates lining the walls, testaments to the Bennett legacy of innovation and acquisition. Elena. Victor greeted me with practiced warmth. James tells me you've come around to seeing the benefits of our arrangement. I've certainly gained perspective, I replied, accepting the glass of wine he offered. Excellent. I've been reviewing the development timeline. With Horizon's resources, we can have a market-ready product within 18 months. Impressive, I said, though you might want to hold off on those production plans. Victor's smile dimmed slightly. Oh? Have you identified an issue with the implementation? You could say that. I set down my wine glass and retrieved my tablet from my bag. I've taken the liberty of filing a competing patent application, one that demonstrates how the algorithm you filed is merely a component of a much larger, more comprehensive system. The color drained from Victor's face as he reviewed the documentation I presented. James moved to look over his father's shoulder, his expression morphing from confusion to alarm. This is the full quantum security framework, James said. How did you really think I'd keep my most important research on devices connected to Bennett networks? I asked. The algorithm you stole was deliberately compartmentalized, significant on its own, but ultimately just one piece of a much larger innovation. Victor's face hardened. This changes nothing. We still have the primary patent filing. Your application will be tied up in litigation for years. Perhaps, I acknowledged, but there's more. Maya Chaudhry and I have also filed an ethics complaint with the Patent Office, complete with documented evidence showing how the Bennett filing was based on stolen research. Your word against ours, Victor dismissed. Actually, it's your son's own words that are most damaging. I pulled up the message logs James had thought were securely deleted. These communications between James and your patent attorneys explicitly acknowledge the source of the technology and your intention to file without my knowledge or consent. James paled. Those messages were on secure Bennett servers, which Maya accessed the moment we confirmed the theft, I explained. She sends her regards, by the way. She always said your network security was overrated. Victor slammed his fist on the desk. This is corporate espionage. No, Victor. This is protection of intellectual property. But we haven't even gotten to the most interesting development. I swiped to the final document on my tablet. As of this afternoon, Quantum Shield Technologies, my company with Maya, has entered into an exclusive development agreement with Global Technologies. The name hung in the air like a thunderclap. Global Technologies, Horizon's largest competitor, had been trying to acquire Bennett Holdings for years. You wouldn't dare, Victor whispered. It's already done. Global announced the partnership 30 minutes ago. Their stock is up 12% on the news. I believe Horizon's is down. What was it, James? 7% last I checked. James stared at me in disbelief. Elena, you can't do this. We're married. About that, I removed the wedding ring from my finger and placed it on Victor's desk. I'll be filing for divorce tomorrow, citing fraud and intellectual property theft as grounds. My attorneys advise me the evidence is quite compelling. Victor's composure cracked entirely. You ungrateful. Do you have any idea what we could have built together? The Bennett name opened doors for you. And now my work will close them. I reply evenly. Global has agreed to a true partnership. Equal credit, equal profit sharing, and complete control over my research applications. We'll fight this, Victor threatened. Every step of the way. You certainly can try. But the evidence of theft is irrefutable, and the business world loves a David and Goliath story, especially when David is a woman of color whose breakthrough research was stolen by her husband's family. I gathered my things and moved toward the door, pausing to address James one final time. You could have had a genuine partnership, personal and professional. Instead, you chose to be your father's son. The next few months were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and business development. As expected, Horizon Technologies attempted to challenge our patent application and dispute our claims of intellectual property theft. But the evidence was overwhelming, and their position weakened when 3 senior engineers defected to Global, bringing additional testimony about the Bennett family's history of questionable acquisition practices. The divorce proceedings were equally decisive. James, facing potential criminal charges for his role in the theft, agreed to an uncontested settlement. By the 1-year mark of Victor's smugly announced theft, Quantum Shield Technologies had secured full patent protection for our complete system, with retroactive invalidation of Horizon's filing. I stood at the podium during Global's annual technology summit, preparing to unveil the first commercial application of the quantum security framework. The audience was filled with industry leaders, many of whom had once dismissed me as merely James Bennett's wife with a research hobby. The journey to this moment has been unexpected. I began. What started as a personal betrayal became the catalyst for something much more significant than a single patent or product. From my position on stage, I could see Maya smiling from the front row, our shared vindication complete. In the back stood James, who had come despite everything, perhaps to witness what might have been his legacy had he chosen partnership over theft. Quantum Shield isn't just a technological breakthrough, I continued. It's proof that true innovation cannot be stolen, suppressed, or controlled when its creators remain vigilant and determined. The demonstration that followed left no doubt about the revolutionary nature of our security system. Global stocks soared, and partnership offers flooded in from companies around the world. Within 3 years, Quantum Shield had become the industry standard for data security, and our company had expanded into multiple technology sectors. Victor Bennett retired abruptly following a shareholder revolt, his reputation tarnished by the scandal. Horizon Technologies was eventually acquired by a consortium that included Global as a minor partner, a final irony that wasn't lost on those who knew the full story. 5 years after that fateful day when I discovered the theft of my work, I received an invitation to speak at the Women in Technology Leadership Conference. My topic, Building Empires from Betrayal. How to turn adversity into advantage. As I prepared my remarks, I reflected on the path that had led me here. The theft of my research had forced me to fight not just for recognition, but for fundamental justice. In doing so, I built something far greater than I might have otherwise. Not just a successful company, but a new model for technological development and intellectual property protection. During the Q&A session following my keynote, a young engineer raised her hand. Dr. Reyes, how did you find the strength to stand up to such powerful opponents when you discovered the theft? I considered the question carefully. I realized something important that day. The Bennetts saw my work as valuable enough to steal. But they didn't recognize that the true value wasn't in the research itself. It was in the mind that created it. They could take my files, but they couldn't take my ability to innovate, to adapt, and ultimately, to prevail. Later that evening, I received an unexpected message from James, the first direct communication since our divorce. I watched your keynote online, he wrote. What you've built is extraordinary. For what it's worth, I recognize now how badly I misjudge everything. You, the situation, myself. The company you've created is what Horizon could have been if we truly partnered with you instead of trying to control you. I read the message twice before filing it away with the original patent documents and legal proceedings, another milestone in a journey that had transformed not just my career, but my understanding of my own capabilities. My phone buzzed with breaking news. Quantum Shield Technologies had just been valued at $12 billion following our latest security innovation. Another breakthrough, another expansion of the empire I'd built from betrayal. James and Victor had tried to claim my inheritance, my intellectual legacy, thinking they were securing the Bennett family's future. Instead, they had catalyzed the creation of something far more powerful than they had imagined. A woman who would no longer allow others to define her worth or limit her potential. Looking out from my office at the sprawling campus of Quantum Shield Technologies, I thought about my grandmother in her hidden server room beneath a modest lake house. She hadn't just taught me about physics and security. She'd shown me that sometimes the greatest strength comes from being underestimated. and that the most valuable inheritance isn't what others can take from you, but what resides within you, waiting for the moment when adversity reveals its true power. And that, more than any revenge, was the most satisfying victory of all.